Scotch Corner by Ferdinand Twiddlestick. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Point.
The rain was relentless, tapping against the windshield of Jack Marlowe's car like an insistent reminder of the storm he was driving through. Scotch Corner, the rest area on the A1, promised respite, a brief sanctuary carved into the grey miles of England's arterial roadways.
"It's just a quick stop, Alice," Jack assured his wife, who sat beside him shuffling documents for the conference they were headed to. Her highlighter danced over bullet points, unaware of the brooding clouds piling above them like a slow-motion avalanche.
Few places held a name as dissonant as Scotch Corner, more crossroads than destination. And yet, its reputation lingered like cigarette smoke in the memories of lorry drivers and late-night travelers. Something about it invited unease. Whispers of disappearances, of empty cars with engines still warm, of belongings untouched, unsettling in their ordinariness.
"Look at that fog," Jack muttered, squinting as visibility dropped. The road signs loomed like ghosts, green reflections swimming in the headlights before vanishing into mist.
Scotch Corner came into view like a mirage, muted fluorescent lights and the faint glow of signage flickering in the downpour. The parking lot was half full, yet no movement stirred.
"Why does it feel like everyone's hiding?" Alice whispered. She peered out into the gloom, her gaze tracing the outline of vehicles sitting too still, as though paused in time.
"Come on, stretch your legs. You've been hunched over those slides since Leeds," Jack said as he stepped out. The rain slapped his shoulders, cold and invasive, soaking his collar instantly.
With a sigh, Alice joined him. Her heels slipped slightly on the slick tarmac, and she instinctively took Jack's arm. "Let's make it quick."
The cafe stood like a relic from the 1980s, a squat building of brick and smoked windows, its signage peeling but valiantly glowing. A yellowed poster near the door advertised a locally famous all-day breakfast, a bold claim for a place no one ever remembered fondly.
"Smells like wet toast and diesel," Jack murmured. He nodded at the chalkboard menu. "But hey, maybe those pies really are to die for."
"Don't say to die for here. It's tempting fate," Alice quipped, removing her damp coat and scanning the room.
The patrons barely looked up. A lorry driver nursed tea at the counter. Two teenagers whispered over chips in the corner, their eyes never meeting Jack or Alice's. And then, at the far side of the cafe, near the vending machine, sat a pair so still they looked painted on.
Jack caught the stare of one figure beneath a wide-brimmed rain-drenched cap. The face was obscured, but something about the gaze rooted him momentarily to the floor.
Without speaking, the figure turned away. The companion beside them, equally shrouded, whispered something inaudible. A flash of lightning lanced the sky outside, illuminating the cafe in stark contrast, and then they were gone.
"Jack, where did they go?" Alice hissed, glancing at the now empty booth. No door had opened, no footsteps had echoed. The space was simply vacant.
"They were just there." Jack's voice trailed off, disbelief creeping into his expression. "I saw them. We both did."
The rain outside pressed harder against the windows, as if trying to get in. Shadows shifted unnaturally beneath the cafe's buzzing lights, and somewhere in the kitchen, a timer beeped, shrill and out of place.
"Let's sit. Maybe we're just tired," Alice said, though her tone lacked conviction. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for a laminated menu.
Jack didn't sit. He turned, his eyes scanning the room, looking for inconsistencies, for logic, for anything that might explain the strangeness. But everything looked normal. Too normal. As though the place were trying a little too hard.
"Something's off about this place," Jack muttered, "like we stepped into someone else's memory and forgot the way out."
Outside, the downpour showed no sign of easing. Time seemed to hang suspended, and Scotch Corner, rest stop of legend and forgotten history, prepared to reveal its secrets to two unsuspecting travelers. What was it about Scotch Corner that swallowed people whole? And had Jack and Alice just taken their first irreversible step into its sinister embrace? Chapter 2. Shadows of the Past. Unbeknownst to most passers-by, Scotch Corner held a secret rooted deep in the soil, one that many had forgotten, and others chose to ignore. The storm outside roiled with intensity, but inside the cafe, a different kind of storm gathered. Invisible and slow-moving, it began pulling Jack and Alice deeper into the enigma.
"We need to find out what happened to those people," Alice insisted. Her eyes scanned the room, flicking nervously to the shadows where the mysterious pair had been moments ago. "People don't just vanish.
It's risky, Alice. What if we end up disappearing too? Jack leaned back, the vinyl booth creaking beneath him. But maybe we start small. Talk to someone, ask around. There has to be a reason this place feels wrong.
The cafe felt like a time capsule. Aged linoleum tiles, menus that hadn't changed in decades, a pinboard cluttered with fading flyers and community announcements. Beneath the surface of familiarity, the past seemed alive, whispering.
What if this place is cursed? Alice said, her voice low. Or haunted? I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's something here.
In the 1980s, long before the motorway sliced through it, this region was wild and overgrown. Locals spoke of the rare blue-backed venomous badger, a nocturnal creature with an eerie glow and a bone-chilling call. They were territorial, they said, vengeful. Then, one by one, they vanished.
Jack stood, drawn to a wall near the restrooms where framed newspaper clippings had been nailed unevenly. Look at this, he called. Sightings, vanished walkers of the northern moor. He read aloud, eyes narrowing. Multiple disappearances, no foul play, no bodies. Just gone.
Maybe it wasn't the badgers. Maybe people just needed something to blame. But there's a pattern. Alice joined him.
An old man hunched at the counter slowly turned toward them. He had a paper cup in hand, and eyes that looked carved from the same stone as the hills. His raincoat hung loose around his frail frame, but his voice cut sharp.
They never really left, he rasped. Them badgers, they're still here, just not in the shape you'd recognize. What do you mean, not the same shape? Jack approached the man, lowering his voice.
The man's fingers trembled as he took a sip from his cup. They adapted, just like we do. They went underground, became part of the land, part of the shadow. Now they don't use claws. They use thoughts, doubts, fear.
Are you saying the land itself is alive? Alice asked.
I'm saying Scotch Corner listens, the man replied. It remembers, and it doesn't like strangers poking at its bones.
Jack and Alice exchanged a glance. The hum of the cafe returned like a spell lifting, but nothing felt normal anymore. The room had changed, subtly, but unmistakably. The shadows were longer, the windows more opaque. Even the warmth from the radiators felt distant, like it was being rationed.
Jack, we should go.
Not yet. We're on to something. We just need to know what.
Outside, the storm intensified, pressing against the cafe like a beast locked out. But inside, something had awakened, and it had noticed them. Were the disappearances a malevolent echo of nature long subdued, or was something far stranger lurking beneath the veneer of normalcy? Chapter 3. The Map in the Mud. The rain had lessened to a steady drizzle, but the heaviness in the air remained. Scotch Corner, for all its outward banality, now felt like a liminal space, somewhere between real and imagined, between safe and unspeakably wrong.
We should walk the perimeter, see if there's anything unusual outside the cafe. I can't sit in that booth pretending everything's fine.
You think we'll just stumble on a clue in the middle of a parking lot? Next to the bin where someone probably dropped their kebab.
It's always the bin, isn't it? Besides, fresh air might clear our heads.
They stepped out into the dusk. A weak glow bled across the landscape, caught between street lamps and storm clouds. The motorway buzzed faintly in the distance, a low hum like tinnitus in the bones.
Alice's boots squelched as she wandered toward a strip of sodden grass beyond the lot. There's something here.
Jack followed, watching as she crouched by a patch of churned earth near the tree line. Muddy footprints led away from the path, then stopped abruptly.
There was no sign of struggle, no trail leading onward, just an impression in the ground, as though someone had stood still, waiting, and then vanished.
Jack, look.
He knelt beside her. Embedded in the earth was a small metal plate, half buried and rusted around the edges. A thick smear of mud obscured most of it, but faint etchings glimmered underneath.
With trembling fingers, Jack scraped at the grime. Shapes began to emerge, a crude map etched into steel. Symbols, arrows, a spiral that looped back upon itself.
Is that a maze?
Or a warning? Look, this mark here. It's Scotch Corner. I recognize the layout. But the rest, this is underground. These aren't roads, they're tunnels.
The plate felt ice-cold even through Jack's gloves. A faint vibration pulsed through it, rhythmic and strange, as if the land beneath was breathing.
I think it's old, but someone placed it here on purpose, recently.
Why? So someone like us could find it, or to lead us into something.
Behind them, the cafe lights flickered. From the kitchen window, a silhouette stood watching, too still to be natural. Then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone.
We're not imagining this. Whatever's happening here, it's coordinated, layered. This whole place, it's more than a rest stop.
It's a trap.
They turned back toward the building, map plate in hand, unaware that muddy footprints now followed their path. Not just their own, but those of bare feet. Fresh, impossibly so. Buried secrets, shifting ground, and symbols etched in steel had Jack and Alice just unearthed a trail that was never meant to be found. Chapter 4. The Locked Room. Above the cafe. The cafe loomed larger as they approached, the familiar now laced with dread. Jack's knuckles whitened around the cold steel plate. It felt heavier than it should have, as though it carried not just weight, but warning.
That figure in the kitchen, Alice whispered. I know I saw someone, watching, waiting.
We'll ask about it, Jack replied, though his voice lacked conviction. Maybe there's staff upstairs, a manager's quarters maybe?
Inside, the room had subtly changed. The lighting seemed dimmer. The patrons were quieter, their murmurs clipped, glances averted. The old man from the counter was gone.
Jack approached the till. A pale teenage boy in a stained apron looked up from the register. Is there an office or something upstairs? We think we saw someone in the window.
The boy blinked, then glanced over Jack's shoulder toward the stairs. There's nothing up there, sir. Just storage. Locked up. Has been for years.
Then who's moving around up there?
The boy froze. His hand, mid-reach toward a tea bag, stopped shaking only when he tucked it into his apron pocket. You're mistaken, he said. No one goes up there.
We saw someone, that window above the kitchen.
You're not the first. The boy hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice barely audible. People say the ones who vanish, they go up there first.
That's not funny.
Wasn't meant to be. Without another word, the boy slipped into the back, the door swinging shut behind him. The air seemed to contract again, the silence filled with expectation.
Jack turned to Alice. We're going up there.
You think the map's connected to it?
I think everything is.
The stairwell smelled of damp wood and time. The wallpaper, faded and curling, was patterned with ivy tendrils, some painted, some real. A locked door waited at the top, thick, painted over many times, but still visibly old.
It's shut tight.
Alice ran her hand along the doorframe. Wait, there's something scratched here.
She rubbed the grime aside. Beneath, carved letters, crude but deliberate, formed two chilling words. Still here.
We're getting in, Jack said. He reached into his coat, pulling out a small multi-tool from his travel kit.
What if it's not just storage?
The lock resisted, groaning under pressure. Then, with a sharp snap, it gave way. The room beyond was dust-choked and silent, a single bed, untouched, a dresser with a cracked mirror, and on the wall photos, dozens, faded faces, couples, families, all pinned like specimens, all dated.
Jack, these are people, missing people. This one, this girl, she vanished in 1994. It was on the wall downstairs.
And here's another. This guy, I saw him on a flyer at a motorway service station last year.
On the floor, half buried beneath dust and old newspapers, was another steel plate, almost identical to the one they'd found outside. Etched into it was a different map, same spiral, but now more lines, more markings, and in the bottom right corner, coordinates.
Someone's marking each disappearance.
Or tracking something, expanding it.
Outside the door, the hallway creaked. The light bulb flickered violently, casting erratic shadows across the room. The air grew heavier.
Jack, we should go?
Not yet, we're onto something. We just need to know what.
Outside, the storm intensified, pressing against the cafe like a beast locked out. But inside, something had awakened, and it had noticed them. Were the disappearances a malevolent echo of nature long subdued, or was something far stranger lurking beneath the veneer of normalcy? Chapter 5. Echoes Beneath the Road. The door clicked shut behind them, not slammed, not blown by the wind, but with a quiet finality that made both Jack and Alice freeze.
Did you close it?
Jack turned slowly, staring at the handle. It just closed itself.
The room felt smaller now. The air tasted metallic, as if something ancient had been disturbed. The photos on the wall trembled slightly, though no breeze touched them.
I don't think we're alone in here.
Jack reached for the second map, the one with more symbols and fresh markings. The spiral was no longer confined to Scotch Corner. It had branches, stretching toward other rest stops, service roads, and empty fields.
This is spreading. Whatever it is, it's moving.
Maybe it always has been.
A sudden noise above them, a dragging sound, like furniture scraping across a floor that shouldn't exist. Dust rained gently from the ceiling.
There's no floor above this room.
Then something's walking on the roof or inside the walls.
The tunnel beneath the cafe twisted and turned, bending time and space with it. Their exit was no longer where they remembered it to be, and each wall appeared to reform with every glance turned away.
We need to get to that site.
Tonight, before someone or something moves it again.
Outside, the night had changed. The air was warmer, yet the fog had returned, thicker now, clinging to the ground like steam over a grave.
Why is the GPS flickering like that?
It's not just the GPS, look.
The clock on the dash blinked erratically, frozen at 11:11 p.m. Then it reset. Then again, time refused to obey. They drove, guided only by instinct and the old map etched into steel. Scotch Corner shrank in the rearview mirror, swallowed by mist. They pulled into a lay-by near the coordinates, where the road bent over a hollow stretch of marshy earth.
It should be right below us.
There, an opening.
Half hidden beneath brambles and collapsed fencing was an old maintenance hatch, rusted shut, but unmistakably real. A sign nearby, long weathered by rain, read, "Underground cable access. No entry without authorization."
There's a tunnel.
It goes straight under the A1.
Inside, the air was colder. The walls of the tunnel were lined with stone far older than any modern infrastructure. Marks carved into them, spirals, clawed scratches, and warnings in languages neither of them could identify.
Why would this be under a motorway?
Because the motorway wasn't built on land. It was built to seal something in.
Beneath the roar of passing trucks and the hush of fogged moorland, Jack and Alice stepped deeper into the dark, guided by a map no one should have found, and towards something that had waited centuries to be seen again. Chapter 6. The Spiral Chamber. The tunnel narrowed as they moved deeper underground. The sound of the world above, the passing trucks, the wind, even the rain, vanished like the closing of a thick vault door behind them.
These walls aren't made of concrete, they're stone, hand-cut.
No one builds tunnels like this anymore, not for roads, not for anything.
Their flashlight beams trembled across markings that became more deliberate the farther they walked. Spirals, arrows, symbols that bent language and logic.
Do you hear that? It's like murmuring in the walls.
It's not your imagination, it's been getting louder the farther we go.
The tunnel curved and dipped, then widened into a circular chamber carved with precision. A perfect spiral pattern marked the floor, etched deep into the stone. At its center, a round stone slab sat like a lid.
This is it. This is what the map was leading us to.
Jack approached the slab, kneeling beside it. In its surface were shallow indentations, perfectly spaced, as if something had once slotted into them. The same spiral appeared again, this time etched with symbols at every turn.
It's a seal or a lock.
Do you think the plates fit here?
Jack pulled the metal map from his coat. As he brought it near the stone, a low vibration surged through the floor. The plate began to hum faintly, resonating with the slab, as though remembering its place.
Jack, maybe we shouldn't be down here. Maybe no one should.
Whatever this is, it's connected to everything. The disappearances, the whispers, the cafe. We have to see what's under it.
With a determined breath, Jack placed the metal plate into the spiral slot. A sound like stone grinding against stone echoed around the chamber as the slab began to shift. The spiral rotated. Glowing veins, traced the etched patterns in the floor, illuminating the chamber in pulsing blue. The temperature dropped sharply.
This isn't just old, it's alive.
Back up, something's opening.
The stone slab cracked down the center. Two halves pulled apart to reveal a stairway spiraling downward into utter blackness. A gust of wind surged upward, not cold, but warm and foul, like the exhale of something long dormant.
This was never a tunnel system. It's a descent.
Or a gate.
Jack stepped to the edge of the stairs. The spiral design continued downward, etched into each stone step. His flashlight flickered. For the briefest moment, he thought he saw something moving far below, shadows shifting where no light reached.
Jack, listen to me. If we go down there, I don't think we're coming back up.
Maybe that's why they never did.
The chamber seemed to breathe with them, its pulse quickening, responding. Around them, the symbols on the walls began to glow faintly, lighting a path that only led down. The spiral chamber had opened its mouth, and Jack and Alice stood on the threshold of a secret buried beneath Britain's most forgotten road. But some doors are sealed not to keep things in, but to keep the world out. Chapter 7. the forgotten below. The first step into the spiral stairwell echoed like a gunshot in a crypt. The stone absorbed the sound too slowly, like it hadn't heard footsteps in centuries.
Stay close. Hold the rail if there is one.
There's no rail, Jack, just stone, just depth.
The stairwell narrowed as they descended. The walls pulsed with faint bioluminescence, green and blue veins that didn't seem to be paint or wiring, but organic, like roots glowing beneath skin.
It's alive. The tunnel, it's reacting to us.
Or watching.
They turned another spiral, each revolution tightening the air, squeezing out warmth and scents. Symbols etched into the walls flickered as they passed, shifting subtly as if rearranging themselves when unseen.
I think it's a language, not written for eyes but for the mind.
I'm getting flashes, memories that aren't mine, faces screaming.
Jack stopped, his flashlight beam landing on a doorway recessed into the wall, a threshold without a door, framed in thick stone. Beyond it, a hall stretched out, lined with alcoves. In each, something humanoid.
Alice.
The alcoves were tomb-like. Inside them, shriveled figures stood upright, eyes open and mouths agape in silent, eternal scream. Clothing hung in tatters from their forms, modern clothes. A parka, a work uniform, a child's hoodie.
Oh my God, these are the missing.
No decay, no smell. They're preserved, like the moment they vanished.
One of the figures twitched. Only slightly, but enough. A muscle memory locked in amber.
We need to go now.
But where? We can't go back, not yet.
At the far end of the chamber, a mural covered the wall. The spiral again, but larger now, swirling out like a galaxy. Inside its center was a shape, not a god, not a demon, but something ancient, something forgotten, and all around it, humans, kneeling.
This thing, whatever it is, it's been worshipped, fed.
That's why the cafe exists, why this place was never built over. It's a well, a sacrifice point. Scotch Corner isn't a coincidence. It's a ritual site.
From the tunnel behind them, footsteps, soft, wet, not running but deliberate, gaining.
We're not alone. Something followed us down.
Move.
They fled the chamber, darting through a side passage that hadn't been on the metal maps. The glow intensified, lighting their way. But it wasn't comforting. It was guiding them deeper, into the dark heart of the spiral.
It's not chasing us, it's hurting us.
Because we've already gone too far.
Ahead, the tunnel opened into a cavernous void. A chasm split the floor, and from its depths rose a tower of black stone, spiral-shaped, carved with unholy detail. At its top, a pulsing orb throbbed with light and shadow, pulsing like a second heart. Jack and Alice had reached the center of the spiral. But what lay inside was not a secret. It was a sentience. And it had been waiting, Chapter 8, the naming of the lost. The cavern was impossibly vast. No walls, no ceiling, just darkness, punctuated by the pulsating tower at its heart, a black spiral reaching upward from the chasm like a finger of ancient stone, pointing into a void no light could touch.
This place, it isn't a chamber, it's a cathedral.
A cathedral without gods, just memory, grief.
At the base of the spiral structure, smooth stone steps curled upward. Along the surface of each, names glowed faintly, written in languages long forgotten, but also in English. Hundreds, thousands, each name etched with painful care.
Tracy Anwell, Paul Hindle, Nina Marks, these are missing persons, these are real.
My God, these are all of them.
The spiral wasn't just a monument, it was a ledger, a record of those taken, layer by layer, step by step. They had been named, remembered, and claimed.
Why would something do this? Why would it need names?
Because names are binding, they give power, meaning, identity. This thing, it doesn't consume people, it collects them.
As they climbed the spiral, the pulsing orb at the top grew brighter. It beat not like a heart, but like a drum calling something home. The names on the steps began to change, not fading, but shuffling.
Jack, that's my name.
It's here too. My full name, my middle name, I never told anyone that.
They reached the summit. The orb hovered above a circular platform. It was no longer pulsing, it was watching, reflecting. Inside its cloudy surface they saw not themselves, but others, lost ones. Faces pressed to glass from the inside, eyes wide in endless astonishment or horror.
That's the old man from the cafe and the boy behind the counter.
They were never real, just fragments.
Jack stepped forward, unable to resist. The orb shimmered, and a voice, not heard but planted directly in his mind, spoke his name. Jack Ethan Marlowe accepted.
It knows me, it sees me.
Get away from it.
Alice grabbed his arm and yanked him from the edge. The orb dimmed instantly. The illusion broke, and from below, movement. 100 feet down, shadows stirred. Silhouettes of the preserved were rising from their alcoves.
We woke it up or they woke up.
Go, go, don't look back.
They hurtled down the spiral stairs as the walls vibrated. Behind them, the shadows followed, not fast, but deliberate. Names peeled from the walls like ashes. Reality buckled, the symbols bleeding into each other, like veins bursting.
Where's the tunnel? Where's the way out?
There, the path is wait, no, it's changing.
The spiral tower wasn't a structure, it was a trap, a recursive space feeding on recognition. The more names read, the deeper the spiral went. They weren't climbing, they weren't descending, they were being written in. With names carved into stone and the spiral chamber collapsing into itself, Jack and Alice had one hope left: to forget. Because in a place that remembers everything, memory itself is the final prison. Chapter 9. The unwriting. The spiral had turned against them. What once guided now confused. What once welcomed now consumed. Jack and Alice stumbled down steps that no longer led where they once had, chased not by creatures, but by memory given form.
It's changing the path. Every time we blink, it's different.
Jack, I can't remember the way we came. I can't remember what floor we started on.
The tunnel was folding in on itself, rooms and symbols repeating out of order. The orb's influence had bled into their thoughts. Reality flickered, sputtering like a dying bulb. Time looped, memory fractured.
How do we erase a name carved in stone?
The old man, he said thoughts, doubts, fear. Maybe it feeds on them. Maybe if we stop remembering.
Jack froze mid-step. In his mind, images twisted, faces he'd never seen, a brother he never had, a holiday he never took. The spiral was replacing truth with fiction, overwriting his life from the inside out.
It's writing new memories to cover the old ones.
Then we have to unwrite them.
Alice dropped to the stone floor and took out a pen, a ridiculous plastic hotel pen. She began scratching at her own name on the stair furiously.
If we can erase our names, maybe we can break free.
Give me the pen.
Jack knelt beside his own glowing name. As he scratched at the letters, the stone seemed to scream, a high-pitched psychic wail reverberating through their skulls. The glowing vein beneath the name blinked, then went out, and with it the step beneath them cracked.
The tower's unraveling.
It's working, but it's tearing itself apart.
Behind them, the humanoid figures convulsed and fell. The mural on the wall split, crumbling into dust. The orb above shattered with a soundless explosion, raining starlight in all directions.
They're gone. The names, the pull, it's lifting.
A path just opened. Look.
A passage of raw stone, unfinished, glowed faintly ahead, less carved, more torn open. It led not up, but sideways, away from the spiral, away from the center.
Don't look back, just run.
Together.
They ran. The tunnel narrowed, then widened, twisted, then flattened, until suddenly they emerged into cold air, open sky above, mud beneath their feet.
We're out, we're out.
Is this real? Are we back?
The trees around them were wet with rain. They were in a wooded hollow near the motorway. Scotch Corner glowed faintly through the trees, only half a mile away.
Do you remember it all? The names, the tower?
Only fragments, like a dream fading, but the feeling is still here.
Jack reached into his pocket. The metal map was gone, but a small sliver of etched steel remained, a corner, broken off, still warm, still humming. They had unwritten their names, escaped the spiral, but the spiral had not forgotten them, and deep below the tarmac and trees, it waited for the next name to be etched in stone. Chapter 10. Return to Scotch Corner. The rain had stopped. Dawn crept over the moorland like a cautious animal, casting pale light over the hollow where Jack and Alice lay. Mud caked their coats. Their hands were scratched, their eyes distant.
We made it out.
But not whole.
The escape had not come without cost. Pieces of memory had been torn from them, like pages ripped from a journal. They remembered enough to know what they'd fled, but not enough to explain it.
Do we tell someone?
What would we even say? That the service station is a trapdoor to a memory-draining entity older than Britain.
They walked in silence through the trees toward the service area. From a distance, Scotch Corner looked mundane again. The cafe was lit. Lorries pulled in. Engines idled. As if nothing had changed, as if it was just another Tuesday.
It's all still here, all of them.
The old man, the boy at the till, they're back.
The staff and patrons moved normally, but their motions were too precise, their eyes too fixed. The cycle had reset. Scotch Corner was performing, again.
It's like a stage, a ritual, and we were just the last act.
They won't remember us. We were erased, but we remember just enough.
Jack reached into his coat. The sliver of etched steel still hummed faintly, its spiral half complete. A seed, a reminder, a tether.
We should destroy it.
Or study it, learn what it really is.
Or feed it, that's what it wants, to grow. You feel it too.
Jack looked down at the shard. In its reflection, the cafe twisted slightly, its roof curling inward, the lights bending. An illusion, a warning, or a temptation.
Then we bury it, here where we broke free.
He covered the shard with his boot, pressing it deep into the wet soil. The hum vanished. For now.
Do you think it'll stay buried?
But we will.
They walked away from Scotch Corner for the last time, two names once etched in stone, now rewritten in silence. Behind them, the cafe lights flickered, and somewhere deep beneath the road, the spiral turned once more. Because Scotch Corner remembers, and sooner or later, it will be hungry again. The end. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.